Okay, what we're doing now is we're going to take these crystals, the figure eights that were harvested, and we're going to actually, this is what I call harvesting the crystals. I'm going to break them off the pipe cleaners. Nothing to it. So this is the borax crystals. Don't want to lose any there. This morning we're going to actually make some batteries as soon as we get the ingredients all together here. Going to actually make a recipe. Now I break these into very small pieces. I don't want any big chunks. I do the same with the other salts, or the other crystals. And sometimes I fold it over and just kind of I actually want it more like a salt than large crystals. See? Now I'll break it down later on once it's mixed, but the more I do it now, the less work it is then. So this is the borax crystals. These are sugar crystals here, which I'm going to have to harvest. And these are Rochelle salt crystals. If you can look at those are nice crystals. Very nice. Some very large ones. Look at this, is a really good one here. I don't know if you can catch that. That's a very nice crystal. And then I do the same thing I did with that. I smash them up. So we're going to be working with then borax crystals, sugar crystals, and Rochelle salt crystals. This is magnetite, Fe3O4, and this is how I buy it. So we'll be working, and pretty much that's what we're going to be putting together. Now I have the sugar crystals, and this is how I do the sugar crystals. And as you can see, it's much like the borax crystals, only these are sugar crystals. Okay, and I will be adding them to the collection just as I did the borax crystals. So I take them off the same way. See the crystal formation in that. Ooh, that's nice. You can see the crystals formed rather nice on that one. Nicely. They come off the pipe cleaner pretty good. You just give it a twist. Okay, and I won't bore you with any more of it. It's the same process as with the borax. We're going to make about a half a dozen of these today. And as you can see, there's epoxy on the bottom, on the top. It's got its recipe in the middle, and right now we're just going to prepare these for putting the mixture in, which means we're going to need to have the magnesium and the epoxy on the bottom. Now this is how I do it. I prepared the 6 shells, and I have 6 pieces of magnesium that are going to go in there. And basically what I want to do is I'm going to put toothpicks, and I super glue them right at the top. I leave the space that I want it to go. That's how much epoxy I want on the bottom, so this will set on top of the epoxy. And what I'll do is I put the toothpicks, super glue the toothpicks, one to each side, and then put it on here, and it lines it up, and I just put it in the middle like so. Alright, and then I just pour the epoxy in and let it set up. Alright, now in order to seal it, what I do is I take a piece of duct tape, good old duct tape and baling wire. You can't hardly go through life without those. Alright, and what I do here is I just put this here, and then I take my finger and rub it around here, like so. And try to get a little bit of a seal on there so that the epoxy doesn't run out. And then we have it everywhere. So, and like so. And I try to center it. That's pretty good. Okay. Now, when I put the epoxy in there, it's going to come up above the level on this, so it will actually then hold the magnesium in place. And at that point, I really could take the toothpicks off, but I'm going to leave them on as long as I can. Now, how I do this is I lay the magnesium out. I just put a drop of super glue on each one where I want the toothpick to go. And take the toothpick. Well, I guess I should put one there. Missed that one. Okay, so each one okay, now you give that a few seconds to dry. And then you turn it over. Oops. Oh, you ought to see how I do with magnets. Alright. Now we'll do the same thing here on the other side. Drop. Okay, now we'll give those a chance to dry, and I'll go over some of the ingredients that are going to go into these. We will be making a recipe here. We'll be using olive oil. I just pick up the cheap stuff from Walmart. I'd be pointless too. This is his. Salt substitute, Morton salt substitute, nothing else. Glue all. Another I'd be pointless too. You got to give him some credit. Then, of course, we have our borax crystals, we have sugar crystals, and we have Rochelle salt crystals. And then, of course, there will be the main ingredient, which is magnetite. Okay, so what I'm going to do now here while these are still drying is I'm going to take each one of these and put tape on the bottom. Already pre-cut. Just try to get a seal around. Sometimes I actually do that. I kind of bend over just a little bit on the side. But then remember, if you do that, then you got to clean it off if you want them to look pretty. Okay, we're going to be cutting out on this. I have 8-minute limits on the segments on this. I'll be putting them all together later on. And thanks to my grandson Sebastian doing the video work for me. When it runs out, it runs out. And then we'll just start another one. Alright, we've need to finish putting these in. Like I said, you center them. And we'll just set them over here out of the way. And the last one here. Now, just so you wonder if later on we end up having 7, in case there's extra ingredients, I have an extra one ready, so I don't waste anything. But for right now, there's the half a dozen that we're going to make. We're going to be using this quick setting epoxy. It takes about 4 to 5 minutes to set up. And I get this at Harbor Freight. I'll be doing the mixing. I've got 0.75 ounce cups that I pick up from GFS. I keep a stack of those. That's what I mix my epoxy in because I just throw everything away. I'm certainly not going to try and reuse them. Now basically I want to make enough to cover the bottom part. Actually, it needs to be just a little deeper than the amount above the toothpick because that way it's going to hold, it will hold the magnesium in place on the bottom. And so therefore it's on the center on the bottom, and then I'll work on getting it on the top. So I'm just going to guess. Now remember, this is the shell. And it's just equal amounts. I'll be using this folded over, okay. Yeah, it's just guesswork. I'll just stir this up. Alright. And I think we'll put it in the one that looks like it's the closest to being on center. Now what I'll do is I'm going to check on this. Okay. I can see that it's not quite up to the magnesium. So I need to add just a little more. Now remember, I can add more later. That's a pretty good seal on the bottom of it. Alright. And then it's the same thing. Stir. I always put in A first, that way I know which one it is, where I'm at. Yeah, it's obvious it didn't, it's not quite on the bottom yet. Needs to touch that magnesium so it'll hold it in place. We can actually add a little more on there. Make sure that it recenter it. It's not a problem yet. Okay, we'll put a little more in there. Okay, that should do it. Now center this. Okay. I don't know how it is. I have no idea. But it's either high enough or it's not. We got nothing to lose. I just keep mixing, and it's like stirring, you know. One thing nice about this epoxy, you just have to have it close. You don't have to have it exact. But it's 50-50 mix. Alright, let's see here. Oh, it's just about there. I can feel it. A little more there. A little more there. And we'll put the rest in here. Okay. Yes. Alright, that one's setting. I can feel it. Now, I have learned, I got some on the top of this. I'm going to wipe it off now because it's be a lot harder to get off later on. And I can feel that this one here is close too. Alright, and we'll just keep going. Oops. You got to see how I do with magnets. Alright, stir it up. And get it lined up. It's pretty good. Boy, until I came up with this toothpick business, you had seen it was really hard to hold that magnesium in place with my teeth. Once again, another 8 minutes is coming to a close here real quick, so we're going to be cutting out. And I won't bore you with each individual one on here. You're getting the idea. This is the mix that we're going to be using. We're going to use 18 tablespoons of magnetite, 3 tablespoons of borax crystals, 3 tablespoons of sugar crystals, 3 tablespoons of Rochelle crystal salt, 1 tablespoon of salt substitute, Morton salt substitute, 1 tablespoon of alum. We'll mix that all very well, and then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of Elmer's glue all, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Then this will all be mixed together really well, and then that is our ingredients, the inside of the crystal batteries. Now let's move over to the batteries, and these are just about ready. I say just about ready because, as you can see here, I did get bits of well, it's not there, it doesn't matter. What we want to get is we want to get these, to get that off of there. We don't want that on the magnesium. Don't want it covered with epoxy. And like I said, it ends up being harder to get off later on, so we'll get it while it's kind of fresh. Okay. I'm going to keep it outside. We really don't need it inside. It won't hurt anything, but alright. And there's a little bit on this one here. Alright. Now we're ready to make the mix. I'm going to mix it in this container right here. And I try to be precise, or somewhat precise, when I pour these out. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's 18 tablespoons of magnetite. Next, borax crystals. 3 tablespoons of borax crystals. There's 1, 2, 3. 3 tablespoons of sugar crystals. It's 1, 2, 3. 3 tablespoons of Rochelle salt crystals. There's 1, 2, 3. Next, 1 tablespoon of salt substitute. That's Morton salt substitute. 1. Alum. Okay. Now, this all gets mixed well. Alright, next, we're going to use two tablespoons of Elmer's glue all. And be a little generous with it. And mix that in. And you continue to mix it well. Okay. And then, when you think you got it mixed up pretty good, this is when you add the olive oil. Now the olive oil, at first it seemed to me that when, I'm going to be generous with it, this is going to be a real good heaping tablespoon here. I put it in before, and this olive oil, I think I overdid it on the batch before last, so I've cut back on the olive oil. I don't know if I cut back too much or not, but we'll see here. But I was using 3 olive oil, and I know that was too much because a month later I was still trying to sop up the olive oil that was bleeding out of the batteries. Okay, it's definitely not too wet. But the question is it got enough? Okay, I believe that this is what I want to go with. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to move these over. And I think, as you can see, this magnetite can really be a mess. So what I'm going to do is, I'd rather throw away a few paper towels than sit for hours trying to get this fine dust off the counter. So I'm going to make a little place for me to mount these. And I believe now I'm going to take the toothpicks off, or at least one on each side. I'm going to put these together so that when I pour it in, that if it doesn't all go inside, at least maybe it'll go in the one next to it. Okay, and there's our 6. And now it's just a matter of, are you steady? You know, I might do it this way here. Now one thing I do is when I get it about half full, alright, then I just put a couple of drops of olive oil on the post itself. I originally started using the olive oil just to keep the gunk inside there from corroding the magnesium. Oops, I better put some I want to get some olive oil on that post. I know it looks like we've got an awful lot here, but I keep forgetting here? So it runs down the post anyway. Now I'll remove the toothpick once I tap this down a little bit, and then the post is centered and stays centered. Okay. I think at first I'll do it. What I'm going to do now is start tapping it down. Once I start on this and I have this first bit down, then I can take this other toothpick off. It's no longer necessary. And as you can see, if I use another magnesium rod, it fits around this one just fine. One done. And that's the trick to getting that magnesium rod centered from top to bottom. Now remember, you can use your own mixture, use your own recipe. But either way, you can use any kind of recipe, and this, as long as you want to use a copper magnesium battery, this is fine here. And that the glue and the olive oil allow you to really compress this stuff down, and it stays compressed. It doesn't loosen up at all. I spent hours and hours and hours watching Fausto Heikkinen work with his batteries. He's my hero in the battery business, believe me. You've got to watch his videos if you haven't seen them. And then you'll have a whole new perspective or new outlook on looking at it. How to make crystal batteries. Alright, now you repeat the process until you have just enough space at the top . put your epoxy to seal it. Now next time I tap it down, I'll probably put a little more olive oil in on the post. Well, this is probably like watching glue dry to you, but you get in the picture. This is how you do it. Needs to be tamped down. Oh, and I'm not done, you'll see. I used to think, wow, that's an awful lot of mix for 6 batteries, but you know it's not. Okay, now I put just a dab of olive oil in each one. Again, cover the post. That's too much. Alright, now here's where, before I'm going to go back, I'm going to show you and this is what increased the voltage for me. I was only getting about a half a volt out of these until I started tamping these down with a hammer at this stage right here. I'm just going to do one because it'd be like watching glue dry to do more than one here. But you just repeat the process for all of them. But as you see here, this is really being tamped down well. Alright, and then we'll do this again. Okay, I think this will be it. Get this little bit in here, and it should leave just enough for the epoxy cap. Okay, now if you see that, we have about the same amount that we had as far as the bottom. Now I will fill that up with epoxy right to the top. And try to make sure there's nothing here. So I want it to hold. It's gonna, because actually there's a lot of pressure on these, believe it or not, when you they start their reaction. Okay, that's ready for the cap. I will clean this off first and then pour the cap on it. Okay. We've got it tamped down now, and we have a lid, a lip, all the way around the side so that it can hold on the pressure that's going to build inside this battery. Now, what I want to do to start with, though, is I want to clean this off, clean off the post. All right, and this is where the it's going to have the epoxy right here. And if you look, it's got a nice, clear, defined lip all the way around. It needs that for the epoxy. And what we'll do is, only this time we're going to try and mix up enough to where it's going to fill it up completely. There's the A. Oh boy. And the B. Okay, there we go. Now we'll mix this really well, or very well. Now as soon as we pour this out, actually here, look at this. We'll do this before I even put the epoxy on it. Negative to positive. Get a load of this on the voltage reading. All right. So without any kind of water or anything in there, you see we have a pretty good voltage reading there. It's 140, 1.4, but see, now it'll drop to the 1.3 after, after everything, all the dust settles. But we will And that's all she wrote. Now that one's a completed project. So now what we'll do, and you won't have to watch the paint dry, I'll be doing that with each and every one of these. And as you see there, we have epoxy right there to the top. You know what's on the bottom. You know what's inside it. You saw what went in it. Remember, you can change this recipe as you will. This is just the one that I've come up with after watching everybody else. But I'm happy with it. And I'm sure there's different things that can be done. I adjust it all the time myself, so I'm sure you'll make your adjustments too, and you may use something totally different. I've seen people use carbon or what have you in there. So that's the completed one. I'll finish the other 6 here, and we'll have I'll have a half a dozen of these puppies here in a couple hours. Peace be with you.